Good morning. I'm Ayala Gordon. I'm Head of Digital from the University of Southampton.
I'm Padma Gillen. I've been helping Ayala with getting content design embedded in the University of Southampton.
Yeah, and today really we are going to talk to you about the digital transformation at the University of Southampton. We have a lot to tell. It's been a journey, so we are going to use lots of different techniques and some heroes and some evil characters and some goodies and baddies, and I apologize in advance if we're going really fast. We'll try and slow down where we can, but there is a lot to tell. So the focus of the story is really a quest rather than a person making that journey.
Thank you. Okay, so once upon a time in a land far, far away, a land called a university. It's called a university because it's somewhere in between a universe and a city. So there's like loads of buildings, lots of campuses, loads of people, lots of levels of government and hierarchy. It's got its own language, which is a bit like Klingon. It's like hofos and fars. I've been trying to learn it, but I can't quite get my head around it. Lots of power structures, loads of boards, and basically this place wants to stay as it is. But the time has come for change. Why has the time come? Well, the time has come because firstly, you've got kind of demographic changes, so there are less prospective students. Fees have gone up, so students are getting more discerning, and user experience is now a thing. And you're not only competing with other universities, you're also competing with Facebook, and user expectations have gone up. Now, none of that's particularly new, and a lot of people might say, well, so what? And a lot of people in the university did say, well, so what? Well, the thing is, yes, in some ways we've been here before, but in other ways there are some specific changes. The time has really come. So within the university, there's a new Vice-Chancellor, and the new Vice-Chancellor is eager for change. He gets that digital is going to be an important part of that. We've also done a content audit of the website, and we know that the website is growing by about 5,000 pages a year. There are well over 1,000 people with the right to publish on the website. GDPR's come in, CMA compliance has come in. There are hundreds of microsites, and that's growing all the time. So we know that something has got to change. Sooner or later, this whole thing is going to fall over. So a new dawn is rising. So that's the context within the university. Outside of the university, content design is now a thing. Gov.uk has happened. So for the first time, a kind of major public sector outfit has taken a user needs-based approach to meeting the needs of its users. So this user needs-based approach is basically articulated like this. I'm sure a lot of you are quite familiar with it now. So this is a user story. As a blah, I want to blah, so I can blah. So like as a prospective student, I want to decide whether this university is right for me, so I can choose whether I'm going to apply there. So users have a choice, and if we're not meeting their needs, they'll go to somebody who is meeting their needs. On the other hand, we've got what the university needs. And really, the university's goal, or one of its important goals, is to have a website that encourages more high-quality prospective students to choose to apply to the university. And that is traditionally what the focus has been. So rather than thinking about users, we've thought about what do we want out of it, and the publishing has been based on that motivation, which ends up, because you're not thinking about the needs of users, you end up with duplication of content. So that there are on one of the pages that we looked at, there are 11 different instances of that page on the website at the moment. So if people aren't thinking about what the needs of users are and how you meet those, then you're going to get the same kind of content duplicated numerous times, which is very confusing if you're a user. You're going to get gaps in content because there are some legitimate user needs that you're completely unaware of that aren't being met. You're going to get poor search engine optimization because if you're not thinking about the language that your users are using and their mental model for understanding this content, and you're thinking about your mental model as a subject matter expert who's been in academia for 20 years and is totally fluent in Klingon, and thinks like that, and understands the way that the university is structured and thinks like that, you're a million miles away from how the user experiences it and how the user thinks about it. So even if you've got all the information there, the user can't find it because they're not searching for the terms that you're writing in. And quite literally, you end up with 200,000 pages instead of 2,000. And as I said, on the University of Southampton's website, it's grown about 5,000 pages per year. In short, you end up with websites that are impossible to manage and expensive to maintain. And the expensive to maintain bit is quite often the lever that brings about change. In short, you end up with certainly the Southampton University website and quite possibly your website too. Fortunately, there are heroes in our midst. And actually, there is more than one hero. I think there might be some heroes in the room here. And as we know, heroes don't generally come from the upper echelons of the power structure. They're quite often farm boys in far-off distant planets, riding around on little space scooters, and they don't have any institutional power, but they know something needs to change. And maybe what we've got here is the beginnings of a secret Jedi Council. So the hero knows something is wrong, and they make a decision to change it with whatever weapons they've got. Unfortunately, we do have some weapons. For instance, we can highlight the reputational risk of the current website. So this is actually social media, a message that came through on social media from a current student who was wondering whether it was a scam site because it just didn't look right. We can highlight the costs of doing nothing. So we know, as I've said, the site is growing and growing. More and more web editors, changes outside of the organisation, changes in the law around GDPR and so on. Really, this is a problem waiting to become a big problem. We can also highlight that there's a lost opportunity in not doing it right. We know that the university website is the most important place prospective students find information when they're choosing whether to apply to a course or not. So if your website's rubbish, you're missing a huge opportunity. Another weapon we've got is that we can share the knowledge of what others are doing about it. So we come to a conference like this and we find out that actually in all these different universities there's all this amazing stuff going on. And we can say, look, I'm not a weirdo. Like, other people are thinking like this too, and just because you're not on board yet, it doesn't mean that I'm crazy, and we really should do something about it. And then, sort of tied into that, we can evangelise a vision for another way. I would argue that that should be about user needs. Okay.
Thank you. So, the reversal of fortune, and something does happen during this quest, and we get a green light for consultation. So I'll talk a little bit through what the quest looks like, what it was like from the University of Southampton's perspective, and what it actually entailed. So the first thing, every quest needs a wizard. So we hired Padma, and he helped us to navigate this uncertainty and shape the approach to the content-led transformation that we wanted to take. Obviously, Padma comes with really a lot of experience from gov.uk, used to be head of content at GDS, so he was really used to the complexity of public sector organizations.
Can I just say, don't go to the local barbers. I just asked them for a drink.
I was going to say that's before the barber appointment. And Yeah, he had a lot of experience in migrating many websites, microsites into one single domain, meeting user needs. So we thought, yeah, let's see if there is some parallels with the university. And I can say that there are, but also there are some differences. So whatever Southampton going to be doing is not going to be what gov.uk did. It will be very relevant to Southampton. So an embryonic concept is born, and it actually was born before I even joined the university, but I took it forward with my team. And when we got the green light for consultation, we really, OneWeb was born. And OneWeb is basically, was a way of addressing all our external web-facing content and how we're going to bring them all into one single domain. When I'm talking about the website is massive. It's a big web estate. So the first thing that Padma mentioned we did earlier was a content audit. And what we did with that was looking at all the different platforms, apps, everything that when you go to your device and you do a quick search and you hit return and it comes up with a search result page and you can access without any authentication, that means it's externally web-facing. So all of that was within scope. We looked at the sample pages of about 10,000 pages, 6 months worth of data, like I said, various platforms, lots of different weird and obscure things. And these were the 4 main lessons that sort of came out of this audit. Firstly, our governance model is not fit for purpose. And we need very clear roles and responsibilities to display the accuracy of information on the website. We really need a split of responsibility between fact checkers and between the people that are responsible for putting the user needs and all the UX side of things on the website. So web specialist and content specialist in their specific areas. Our content creation is not fit for purpose because there is no quality control built into any of our publishing workflows, and really my team is constantly put in a very difficult position where they have to negotiate with non-specialists and attempt to minimize the poor quality of content that is going on the website. No one has really overall responsibility for it, and there is no consistent approach to how content is published. Our publishing model is not fit for purpose because we have an army of CMS editors. So just on our corporate website, we have 1,000 plus web editors, all doing their own thing across the empire, publishing content, and the website is growing at a rate of 5,000 pages per year. And it is unmanageable. It's completely, unsustainable, and we are penalized by search engines because we have a fat website, and we can't control it anymore. And our domain model is not fit for purpose because we have hundreds and thousands of websites and microsites all knitted together in some sort of weird way with a sticky tape, all sort of holding on there. The information architecture doesn't really make sense. It's unreliable. We have multiple CMSs. We have legacy systems. So we have daisy chain redirects. So 5 different levels of redirects that basically gave a big headache, not just for SEO and for the IT department, because it's a huge maintenance cost and overhead over technical teams and implications. So it results in a lot of broken journeys and really unintuitive experience for the user. This was just a quote that sort of came up just before I came to the conference, and it's actually from 2007 and still highly relevant in the sense that it's talking about how the corporate website is, doesn't really meet user needs. And in many, many ways, conversations, especially with prospective students, happen in all sorts of different ways. The website is a really important channel, but really they also listen to each other on social media. The conversation happens before that. So really, to make it relevant, and this is from 2007, it's still relevant, is we need to meet user needs in order to take it forward. So we know we have a bit of work to do after this audit, and it's time to roll up the sleeves. So consultation starts. And consultation, just like really quickly in numbers. So One really big communication plan that was scrutinized by lots of critical friends, including ones that knew nothing about the web and nothing about technology, to make sure it's in plain English and totally understood. Had 4 departmental debriefs, so we are part of a directorate and about 70 people plus, so everyone had to understand what it is about. It's a key strategic priority for the whole department. So when people are being asked in faculties questions, they can answer those, or elsewhere across the university. We also had 20 user needs workshops, which I'll talk a bit in a moment. I did them in 3 weeks over 5 campuses, back to back, non-stop, just get it done. And I think that was the first shock for people. It was like, whoa, it's happening. Over 200 colleagues have participated in those. And that was sort of a strong indication that we are serious about it. One of the key differences with the user needs workshops was not just to get stakeholders to understand what users are after and to put themselves in the shoes of the users. It was really, the key difference was to make it really obvious that this is about, first of all, about the process, then about the information, and then it is about the system. Really, it is, if we do it in that order, it will be a lot easier in the long run, and we're not just going to come back to the same problems time and time again. You place technology at the end point of our discussion, and this is really was the key thing, is really to help to stop like coming up with a solution, first of all, to every problem, because actually the real key issue is about our culture and about how we do things, and that needs to change first before we do anything. There is no point getting the shiniest, latest toy and bolt it on a legacy system, because it's like putting solar panels over a Lego house. It's going to fall apart eventually. Someone will argue that probably not, but yeah, that was basically the idea. So that was what we did, and sometimes it really felt like this, you know, it was difficult conversations, difficult meetings, you had people that didn't want to know you, that didn't want to be engaged, that already been there before, that, you know, thought I'm too late, you know, that should have happened 3 years ago, and there were some really positive meetings out of it as well. So it is about, you know, I was relatively new to the higher education, and I put my foot in it not once, not twice, not 3 times, and it was all around sort of semantics and how people perceive what you're saying. So Alison had a really important lesson right at the first talk in day 1, which was about really try to figure out what your stakeholders are after, and she was right. Did millions and millions of presentations and meetings, pre-meetings, after meeting, during workshops, you know, it was just quite unbelievable. And it sometimes felt like this. So, you know, it felt a bit like the Congress whip, going around, meeting with lots of people. I became a coffee drinker during those consultation periods. And really it was about trying to figure out what motivates those stakeholders. Those top people, you know, might have completely different agendas. It might be about efficiency, it might be about something totally different, but, you know, it was definitely House of Cards meeting Games of Thrones in some places. So it was all about building awareness, and never doubt what commitment can do, because just standing out there and talking and not going to anywhere and waiting to be taken down is not going to get you anywhere. So it is about really start gaining ground, talking to people, making the changes that will see you pass through the battle, and really, if you want your virus to take hold, you need to have it infiltrated and multiplied a few times. So it is about growing a movement, and I'm only going to, I'll see if I can play that, probably some of you have seen this. It's basically the single crazy guy in the festival having his dance, and you'll have the links for it in the presentation later. And basically, the more crazy he looks, the more people joining in, and it's a one big fun party. So how did we gain ground? Yes, a lot of you mentioned you've been doing blogs, so did we. We started a team blog documenting our progress. Really, especially when we're experimenting, we've been doing week notes. It is about, again, those advocacy. We gained very quick number of sort of subscribers that constantly wanted to know what's going on. And you know when you're successful, when people actually stopping you in the cafes in the university and say, "Oh, by the way, what's happening with OneWeb?" And, "Oh, I've read your blog, and I have to say, I really like the way you communicated it to people." And I thought, yeah, okay, you know, it's happening. And every university likes a good paper, and University of Southampton is no exception. So I had to write many, many papers, strong papers, long papers, short papers, powerful papers, many papers. And I have to say that, you know, that is a really difficult thing, because you very quickly come to realize that you have the old world that you're trying to move away from, you have the new world that you are keen and eager to jump right into, and actually you have two parallel universes happening, coincide side by side, and you really can't just leave the old world behind. So it does mean you have extra amount of work, double the amount of work, you know, whilst if this is all happening. And then, like with every good story, it gets complicated. So, how many of you had restructure for the past couple of years or going through it right now? Yeah, so we. So, restructure happens. Pension crisis happens, you know, all over the country, not just at Southampton. Lots of different things that divert the attention of top leadership from the real, you know, my mission, our mission, you know, whatever we really wanted to happen. So our leadership get distracted, and all best plans have to adapt to changing circumstances. And it's about the ingenuity of it. So the goal doesn't change, but how you get the change. And I'll let Padma just talk you through what happens next.
Thank you. Yeah, so yeah, we've put in a hell of a lot of work, and we've kind of built this momentum. Then conditions change, and it looks like, as with many projects in large organisations, it could just be shelved for 6 months, a year, forever. So what do we do? And as far as sort of several people in sort of senior positions in the university are concerned, there's no Black Riders coming, there's no armies amassing in Mordor. There was a website, there's still a website, there's going to be a website tomorrow, what's the problem? So they're quite happily waiting for their second breakfast. And we're trying to kind of maintain this sense of urgency, and actually something radical does need to happen. There's this like large organisations in you know sort of higher education sector, in government sector, in the private sector. When they get beyond a certain size, they've all got the same sort of way of operating, and it's this kind of inertia that feels really safe, but when conditions change significantly, like they are now, actually that's a massive risk. So it's about saying, look. Like in government in 2010, Martha Lane Fox said, we need revolution, not evolution. And that's how GDS started, and that's how Gov.uk started. It's like we need to do things significantly differently. So what we're trying to do is build that sense of urgency at Southampton. And Ayala talked about having to work in two parallel universes, so we're conceiving of it as an agile project, but as far as the university is concerned, we didn't do a discovery, we did a consultation, and now we did a course pilot, we didn't do an alpha, but in terms of the way that we ran it, we ran an alpha. So it was a 10-week thing. We tested 3 different prototype approaches to course pages with users. We did the as-is, so that's what's on the website at the moment. We did a Hefty version, which is like Hefty best practice version of the content, and then we did a like full-on content design approach, which we called the RAD design. And we tested all 3 of them. In short, Hefty did okay. The RAD version did pretty well. What's currently on the website didn't do so well. And what we're learning from that is actually we can't do a full-on total stripped-back content design thing. In order to meet the user need, actually we do need a level of detail, and it's just kind of now we're looking at working out how we structure that so it's easy to get through. This was the user need we were trying to meet. As a young person in the UK with predicted good A-level grades, I want to see what the University of Southampton has to offer so I can decide if I want to apply there. Now, in order to be able to make this happen, it's all very well kind of like changing the content, but if you don't have the governance model to sustain that, then this is going to fall over. So, as Ayla said, it's also about the processes. And so we also, as part of the Alpha, experimented with a new governance model. And we used gather content to police that in a way. We designed the workflow within gather content. We had all different levels of permission within gather content. So we split the UX ownership of the UX from ownership of the factual accuracy, which is the same way we approached it in government. And they work together. So content ownership is a joint thing. So we had a fact check section in the workflow, and we had the fact checkers had the ability to comment, but they couldn't rewrite content, and they couldn't publish.
Back to me. And in the meantime, when all of this is happening and we're writing about it and we're experimenting, our business case is finally getting the right traction and the right support. And we start going through all the various boards. The University of Southampton is a pretty big university. It has lots of complex boards and governance, and we're starting to be heard, which is really great. But you need to stand out amongst all the other competing projects, and this is the tricky thing, is when you have a really big organization and you have lots of different priorities and you have one pot of money, you know, how do you make your project stand out more than others? And sometimes it's really beyond your, you know, what you can actually do and influence. But it's really important to remember that. Because everybody loves a good comeback, and we really want to be able to take it forward. So we are waiting to hear what's next. And we want to do a beta for the alpha that we just carried out. We want to transform the site completely. We want to build a sustainable governance and content model. We want a full content design team and UX team working in an agile way centrally. And we want to develop an information architecture that is completely based on user needs. And we want our content to be accessible all over the world so people can find us really easily. So, if you want to know what is happening next, you will have to wait and see. But we are ready, and we would love to come back here next year if you want to see what the sequel looks like. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. Awesome presentation and awesome slides, I think I can say. Does anyone have any questions?
Quite bunched.
Can we take Friday morning?
Yeah.
Hi, Alex, University of Bristol. I was just wondered, who's your most senior champion for the change? Who have you got to support you?
Sure. So I've got my director, who is Director of Comms and Marketing, but I also have our Executive Director, so he's, for Comms and Marketing and also other departments. And in addition to that, there are some deans that are championing this, so this is really good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Bradley, Equify. Question, do you have to bring an external change agent in to make this happen? Is that how you get the attention of people at the top of the organization?
You don't have to bring a change agent, but it was extremely useful because you then not the only crazy lunatic that is saying this needs to happen. So you know, I mean, I came from an external place anyway, so it was a little bit, I wouldn't say easy, because it wasn't easy at all, But I know that my predecessor was saying exactly the same thing and did an amazing job, but I think it was me being new saying exactly the same, that helped. And then bringing Padma on board a bit later was again really useful because he brought the complexities that he understood from government. And a lot of people at the university and outside the university have complete appreciation how brilliant gov.uk is, and everyone applied for MOT and so on. So, people understood what I was trying to do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Another one down here.
Chris Scott from Headscape.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Thanks for a great talk. I just had some questions around scope, really, and the huge discovery phase you've been through, and whether you set boundaries to that. So, for example, Southampton, Russell Group, research-led, so I imagine there's a lot of pressure from stakeholders to promote research and business services, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Was that within scope, or did you decide that to leave
It is
that
in
to
scope,
later phase?
yeah. But we do acknowledge that we will need to have probably different models of governance so it depends really what falls centrally and what's not. The most important thing is that we portray our brand in the best way possible out there. What's in scope is everything that sits on the southampton.ac.uk and soton.ac.uk domains, so that including the research and enterprise side of the university as well.
So when you went from discovery to deciding what the focus for your alpha should be, for example, what was the process there in terms of objective setting, and which of the stakeholders did you use?
Yeah, so we did. So the discovery itself included the audit itself. So looked at the various sites. It also included the stakeholder consultation when we got the green light to go ahead with the concept, and the user needs workshops included variety of stakeholders from all over the university. We try to keep them relatively small because if you have too many people in the room, you're not going to make any progress. But it was all about also the communication of it. I mean, I can't tell you there is never enough. You can carry on and doing more and more and more work. So I know that part of our big way forward will be to continue with engagement, communication, the financing of it, all of that's never ends. That will carry on.
Just to say, for the alpha, we kind of consciously reduced that massively to undergraduates only, domestic students, prospective students only, and we used course pages because they're quite high profile. People care about them. They're quite complex in terms of who owns the content. There's multiple people need to be involved. There are quite a lot of differences in the. Some of them involve working for part of the course. Some of them involve multiple campuses and different parts of the university and so on. So it was an interesting experiment, but we narrowed that right down for the alpha.
Because the treatment for PG courses, for example, or research PGR will be completely different.
Yeah.
And we started big, went small. Yeah.
I think that's probably all we've got time for now. So if we could just give a big thank you to these two.